Welcome to the second lesson of the Research Methods Unit. In this week's lesson, we will reflect on the topics of your interest in order for you to start a research. First, you need to select a wide area of interest, such as types of workplace design or a topic that draws together material from different areas. But you should also consider the type of learning you want to focus on. But now we must think about starting to write right away. To help you with this, you can follow the suggestions from some experts, like Susanna Barreto, Bruno Gistera, and Professor Dirk Loyens.
The aim of a research investigation is to know a lot about very little. So, say for instance, one thing is to look at design, Portuguese design in a broad manner. Quite another is looking at Portuguese design in a certain time and space, or even more specific, to focus on 2 or 3 authors.
What makes a good research topic? In my opinion, the one whose the outcomes are translated in innovation. An innovation is not creativity. So it is measurable by way of financial outcomes or improvement of products or services. I think that is what I think that makes a good research topic. Mm-hmm. Yes.
In the first place, a good research topic should be something which motivates you, which interests you very, very deeply. If there is no motivation, probably there will be no good research. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it should be something which you can research, which is not too broad. It should be something very specific, something which you can circumscribe in one sentence. And third, of course, it should be something which is contemporary, a hot topic, not something which has been researched already 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. It should be something which is of interest now. Mm-hmm.
With your dissertation, you will have the opportunity to explore thoroughly some aspects of the theory, methods, knowledge, or skills that you have been introduced to in the past. In the beginning, you can brainstorm a lot of ideas, but then you must narrow them into a framework of research. Find those connections. Thus, you can use random words. You may choose an object or a noun and associate it with a research concept you may think of. Food, for instance, might be associated with design for sustainability, or fashion design and infographics, or cities and visual communication. Then, mind map these initial words in a big sheet of paper. Place it on a wall in horizontal position. The core ideas should be in the middle, and the related topics branch out of it. The ideas should be taken apart and should extend to your page limits. Mind maps allow you to brainstorm and write down your ideas on paper faster. They promote especially free association. By registering and then rapidly reviewing freely generated ideas, we can find connections and new relationships between concepts that we otherwise might have missed. Learning goals. You might have a vague notion of the kind of learning objectives that you want to achieve. Whichever type of research project you choose to do, remember that the primary goal is to enhance your own knowledge in the area of your choice. You may not be able to define these learning objectives very precisely, and even if you do, they may change during your project. However, try to reflect on the kind of learning goal that you're pursuing and revisit this. You should review the objectives regularly during your project process and ask yourself whether they are still relevant, taking into consideration what you've learned thus far. If you adjust the objectives, you may also need to adjust the methodology so that your work remains coherent. It is possible that the objectives you set in the beginning of your project are very different afterwards, that is, at the end of your work. Build a chronogram of your tasks in order to define your plan of action. As in any other job, research has its own process, and it is very useful to create your own chronogram. Take into consideration the tasks that you may need to perform and the time you have available to do this work. Take into account the time you will need to understand, for instance, the state of the art. You should consider the time to review the literature and the time to figure out what has already been done in your field of interest. Take into account the time you'll need for all the tasks that your data gathering entail. Consider the time you'll need to read and write. This chronogram should be evaluated by your supervisor. He will be very useful in not only helping you define your research goals and theoretical approaches, but also advising you on practical issues, like the right approach to getting a good interview.